Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shills, desolators, peasants, vassals, minions, meat sacks. I'm a usefulity. Welcome. And let's go back to the globe. This is a global thing, and this is the real scandal out there. All the attention is on the Panama Papers, and of course, there's a lot of questions about whether the release of the Panama Papers, particularly their selectivity, has been because it's a manipulated leak and it is being used to target ostensibly enemies of the United States or people who might get caught in the crossfire. But more notable is the fact that a real huge scandal out there is not really getting much attention. And in fact, articles I've read have pointed out the fact that all this is going on, and yet we're hearing nothing from the Financial Times, which of course is a bullhorn for the global corporate industry, and therefore doesn't really want to talk about this. Washington Post, Bloomberg, BBC, a lot of coverage of this story is notable by its absence. And one of the reasons is because this is a genuine leak. And not only that, these are very, very damning documents that show a global corruption on an epic scale, truly epic scale, and involves classic elite companies around the world and is involved in countries all over the world and using graft and kickbacks and bribery. The labyrinth of it is so complex that I'm going to leave a lot of the details to the articles themselves, which I'll post below, because it's really just amazing the levels of corruption, and it's all based out of this one little company called Unaoil. And nobody's really heard about it much until now, and it's a family business in Monaco, and it's this very under the radar company that it's managed for the last 20 years to systematically corrupt the entire global oil industry and distributing millions and millions of dollars worth of bribes on behalf of giant international corporations, buying off officials and rigging contracts across the globe. And so what a shocker. Like everything else, the market is completely manipulated, completely corrupted, and used by the elites for their own playground. And it involves the same people, the same banks, same corporations, the same transnationals. In this case, it's companies like Hyundai, Samsung, Rolls-Royce, Halliburton, and Leighton Holdings, vast transnational corporations and huge corporations that have had lofty reputations and have their fingers in the pie of things going on all over the globe. And even more so than the Panama Papers, these leaks implicate lots of companies, lots of politicians, and lots of bureaucrats. And so where's the attention on this scandal? Although I must say it's very complimentary to get these leaks about the elites in the Panama Papers and their tax evasion schemes and shell companies and bribery and graft. This complements that well to once again just show that the entire global systems, whether it's financial or otherwise, are all rigged and favored for wealth transfer. And like I say, to characterize it as a playground for the rich. One of the more disturbing aspects was that the U.S. defense giant Honeywell hid their bribes in fraudulent Iraq contracts, and so that's pretty shameless. But we have also a long history of knowing that all the military contractors working in Iraq were ripping off the U.S. government, because that's how it works. But wow, a lot of people indicated, too, Iraqi oil ministers, and in fact, Iraq is one of the countries that has launched investigations into these accusations. People associated with the Assad government in Syria, government officials in Libya under Gaddafi, middlemen and players and bureaucrats and politicians and government leaders and oil industry insiders all over the globe in Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, New Zealand, Yemen, United Arab Emirates, Iran, Kuwait. Interestingly, there's a character in Kuwait known as, quote, the big cheese, unquote. And no surprise he'd be in Kuwait, I guess, if you're going to have a giant oil scandal. Also in Australia, Tunisia, China, South Korea, Japan, Malaysia, Algeria, Kazakhstan. So pretty widespread across the globe in the Middle East and Asia. And no surprise, because this is where Western corporations and transnationals are trying to get these sweetheart deals and using bribery and rigging contracts and buying off officials. And as usual, of course, the giant banks in London and the United States have collaborated all of this. They're always, every time there is a scandal involving money and oil, which is pretty much every scandal and every war, you find these same big banks in the city of London and these same big banks in the United States and Wall Street, all with their hands in the cookie jar. And Unaoil paid out at least $25 million in bribes, which seems like a small amount in this world, but let's remind ourselves that a lot of that money is going to mid-management players, and so you can get a lot of bang for your buck. I also have to laugh that in internal documents, even the family-owned Unaoil company referred to a lot of their clients as, quote, greedy assholes, unquote. So that'll be the heading for this video, I would imagine, something to do with greedy assholes. And I think that's a term we should all keep in mind, because greedy assholes are pretty much at the heart, once again, of all these scandals that I talk about, and it's a good way to put it. But that they're taking this pretty seriously. Another example of why this is important, and it has some relation to the Panama Papers release, is the company offices of Unaoil have been raided, and governments all over the world are launching investigations. And I think what they're trying to say is that governments all over the world are hiring law firms and public relations firms to try and bury this story as quickly as possible and protect all their corporate clients. But that's just my interpretation. But there you have it. The biggest scam in this stretch, for the most part, from 2002 to 2012 that Unaoil operated, although a lot of things about the company preceded 2002, and a lot of things involved in this huge scandal also have happened past 2012. And so there you have it. The Unaoil scandal, global elites treating the world like a playground for the rich, in which they bribe underlings and rig contracts and get what they want, because that's what they do. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.